What's up guys, TechTine here, and I am back again with a brand new video. So before I begin this video, as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching this one. If you enjoy my content, make sure you leave a thumbs up. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. The subscribe button is right down below that like button. So yeah, also make sure you're following me on my Instagram page. I will be posting a sample pictures from today's video. So yeah, follow me there for the latest updates, and even if you have a question, just go ahead and DM me there. I respond pretty quickly. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with today's video. So the setup for this one is kind of different. As you can see, the lighting is not the greatest, but the b-roll footage is nice. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. So I won't let you guys look at this all video. That would be painful. So yeah, in today's video, I have kind of a special setup. This took a while for me to set up, and it wasn't easy. So I thought I would do something fun. It is the end of the year, so in this video we're going to be taking a look at the best iPhones of the decade. And really, these iPhones are going to shape up the next decade for iPhones and phones in general. So let's go ahead and get started. And of course, we have to start with the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 4S. So the iPhone 4 brings an iconic design, in my opinion, and a lot of people actually love this design. So Apple, before this phone, Apple started out with the 3GS, and it was made out of plastic. It was a good phone and all that, but a lot of people complain about the design material. So Apple said, okay, we'll bring in premium material. So they did with the iPhone 4 and the 4S, and they decided to go with glass and metal for the design. So the back panel is entirely made out of glass. You have your 5 megapixel rear camera. You have your Apple logo, the iPhone, all the other. Bottom of the phone, you have your 30-pin connector, your speaker, and on the right hand side you have your SIM removal tool, as well as these two things, which I will discuss in a little bit. And on the top you have your headphone jack, as well as your power button. On the left hand side you have your volume up and down, as well as the ringer. So on the front of the screen you have your, what was back then, a massive 3.5-inch screen, really huge bezels top and bottom. Your front-facing VGA camera, I think it was like 0.8 megapixels, your earpiece, as well as your proximity sensor, and the famous home button, rest in peace. And yeah, so that was pretty much it for the design. And a lot of people actually like this phone. Unfortunately, I couldn't get this one to work. It was locked, and it kept turning off. But this was basically the 4S specifically was the last phone to use the 30-pin connector. After that, that connector has died. And overall, this brings in a lot of heft. And if you see the side, it is just two thick pieces of glass, as well as your antenna band all around. And these little sections right here, these actually make up the antenna signal, which a lot of people found it to be amazing and great, until it was just lacking in signal strength. So Apple fixed that with the iPhone 4S. So yeah, there's that for you. And that's really the design of the iPhone 4 and 4S. Really iconic, and it is still a solid design. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. Okay, so yeah, let's put that down. And let's move on to the next iconic design, which is the iPhone 5 and the 5S, which came right after the 4 and 4S. So this phone right here is the 5S. Apple started getting into the larger screen, but people were kind of disappointed on the fact that it was only just a longer screen. They didn't stretch it out as a lot of people hoped they would. Apple did change the design elements of this phone. So this phone is made out of two materials in terms of design, which is metal and glass. So the metal is placed on the middle of the phone, so as soon as you pick it up you get this nice cold feel. So it's solidly built phone. So Apple did end up using 2 strips of glass to help with signal strength and things like that. And the back of the phone housed an 8 megapixel camera with dual tone flash, your microphone, and the bottom of the phone had a 3.5mm headphone jack, your speaker, as well as they switched from the 30-pin connector to the lightning connector, which a lot of people were upset about that, but they said that it had to be done for the future, and hey, they were right. I mean, okay, so the front of the screen, like I said, it does house a 4-inch display, and you also have your front-facing camera, which I believe was a 1.2 megapixels. So there's that, and your earpiece, as well as the Touch ID. So on the 5 it did retain the standard home button, but the 5S brought in Touch ID, which a lot of people were happy about and were ecstatic about actually. So you can unlock this phone with the fingerprint. Now, it wasn't the fastest thing in the world, but you got to remember that this was a first generation. Overall, a solid design, and I still think it's one of my favorite designed iPhones. In fact, I think Apple thinks so too, because they did bring this design back in the iPhone SE right after the launch of the iPhone 6s. Next up is really the iPhone of iPhones, the most popular iPhone out there, and that is the iPhone 6. Let's talk about design first. So Apple decided to go all out and made the phone entirely out of metal. They got rid of the glass. Get this phone has sold 224.2 million units. Picture that real quick. You had two sizes, a 4.7 and a 5.5 inch display. The bigger phone had the two better features, and I'll discuss them in a little bit. But as far as design goes, this is a nicely designed phone. I still think that the 5S was designed better, but that's just me. This definitely said, okay, since everyone else is going the large screen route and that's what people want, let's give the people what they want. And Apple decided to finally give it up and give people an actual big screen phone rather than just stretching the display. So as far as everything else goes, the bottom did house a headphone jack, which the 6 and 6S were the last two iPhones with a headphone jack. Rest in peace. You have your microphone, a lightning connector, as well as your speaker. And on the back, you did have your 8 megapixel camera with your dual tone LED flash, as well as a microphone. You also had the antenna bands, which received a lot of criticism. They were hated by a lot of people, but from my personal point of view, I never really owned the 6. My first iPhone was actually a 6S Plus. But yeah, to me, I really didn't find a problem with it. You get used to it, kind of. Matter of fact, you don't even look at it because you will have a case on the phone, or you mainly interact with the front of the phone. But the bezels were still big on this phone, and I guess at the time people really didn't care. They were just excited to get a bigger phone. Touch ID stayed still, and you also have your 1.2 megapixel front-facing camera. Camera has only improved slightly. It didn't really receive a huge improvement, but yeah, the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. Now the 6 Plus did have for it the 1080p display rather than the sub 720p panel, as well as optical image stabilization. But with the 6 Plus, it also received the famous bend gate, which really I think that's what made the iPhone even more popular. So they fixed it with the 6S and the 6S Plus. These three phones that I talked about, the 4, the 4, the 5, and the 6 were really the three most iconic Apple designs. But I can't let this video end without talking about what will shape the next 10 years of iPhone. And that is, of course, the iPhone 10, or as 90% of people called it, the iPhone X. So I have to discuss this phone on the fact that, one, it really changed the whole design aspect of Apple. So it looked nothing like it did, of course, receive some inspiration from previous iPhone designs, but the fact of the matter, this is the first in a while that Apple really went outside the box and redesigned the iPhone. So this introduced a near bezel-less display, so an OLED panel, also the first OLED panel on an iPhone. And one of the things that people liked and hated at the same time was this notch right here, which housed some important sensors. So beginning with the front-facing 7 megapixel camera, you also have your a subwoofer here, which helped elevate the speaker quality, as well as your proximity sensor and the sensors for Face ID. So this phone unlocks now via Face ID, and no more home button, no more taptic button, just strictly display and a notch. So that's really it. A lot of people speculated that this phone will have a fingerprint sensor in the screen, but I guess that's just for future generation iPhones if they decide to bring it back. Now on the back of the phone, you also had your dual camera, which the 7 Plus introduced back in 2016, I believe. You have a dual 12 megapixel sensors, both have optical image stabilization. So I have to bring in the iPhone 11 Pro Max on the fact that this is the last iPhone of the decade, and it didn't really change the design much. It added a little bit to the design of the iPhone 10. One of them is the triple camera setup, and this camera is the best on the market, and a lot of people gave it a lot of praise. I took some pictures with it, and I know why. So yeah, the sample pictures will be uploaded on my Instagram page, so you can check them out there. So instead of the kind of glossy glass, they introduced the matte glass, which feels really nice in the hand. The regular iPhone 11 still stuck with the standard glossy glass. So yeah, a faster phone, a triple camera setup, and a matte glass finish. The B-roll that you guys saw today come from the iPhone 11 Pro Max, so let me know what you guys think of it. And overall, really iconic designs that you guys see in front of you. They all had their one-two thing going for them. And yeah, this has been it. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoy it, leave a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and I will definitely catch you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.